What I want to talk about today is I want to talk about second homes and investment properties and what's been going on with that. And then just do kind of Q&A. I don't have any slides presented for today or anything. I just thought it's good to have questions from y'all and know what y'all are thinking as you're talking to people out in the industry. So I'm going to start with a little bit of history of what happened. So a couple of weeks ago, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, make the rules for the loans. I kind of relate them to the Apple iCloud. Like, no one really knows who they are, but they're there controlling everything. Okay, like all our stuff is in the Apple iCloud. It's kind of the same with mortgages. So they're the entities that make all the rules for all the banks to rely on, so that's how we can sell loans between each other. So they came out with a bulletin that said, guess what? We are going to limit our portfolio of the loans that we purchase from you, or the loans that we guarantee, for you, the banks. We're limiting investment property and second homes to 7% of our portfolio. So I want to tell y'all what that means and how that's triggered changes that's very much going to change your clients that are getting a second home or vacation home or an investment property. So there's a couple things that I want to talk about. And if you have a question that you think about, just put it in the chat and then we'll take them, of course, after. So what that means is that they're going to get to 7% of their portfolio and they're going to stop. They're going to say, we're too over concentrated. So I want to talk about potentially for y'all to think about why they did that. And then we'll talk about what that's looked like in the market. So the reason they did that is because, well, and I don't know the direct answer, like I haven't called Fannie and Freddie and asked them. It's only kind of what I've read and just know from 25 years of being in the business. Number one, they can do whatever they want. Number two, they're probably anticipating future fallout and future potential losses down the road. So like loans that they book now, they have to live with for probably 7 to 8 years. That's kind of the average time of a loan before it like moves hands. People sell, they move on, whatever. So they're trying to anticipate, is this loan going to perform for however long? So they anticipate that at some point, I don't know when, that investment properties and second homes might default. Because the logistical reality is that when people have hard economic times, they're going to protect their homestead, their primary residence first. Like if you're about to go bankrupt and you have the choice between paying the house payment where your family lives and paying that payment on an investment property or a second home that you might visit once a month or weekends or whatever, what are you going to pay? You're going to pay the primary residence. So they are limiting exposure. That's all it is it's a risk move. And it might have, maybe it has something to do with the market being so, like all over the country, there's no inventory, none. Maybe they're doing it to alleviate inventory issues and leave room for people that need primary residence. I don't know. That's probably just kind of a myth or myth not, I don't know, but it's about risk. So that's number one. So what we're seeing immediately, like overnight when that was announced, almost every lender or a good portion of them started to change their pricing, meaning change their rates, their fee, origination fees or not, whatever. And the reason is, like I could originate a loan today and our company would have it on their books and we go to sell it after closing. So after closing, we securitize it up and we bundle. Most lenders, they'll bundle a bunch of loans and they'll go try to deliver it to the market. And Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac could say, oh yeah, it's really nice that you originated that loan, but guess what? We're at our 7% and we decided that today we're not taking any more. So we could have a loan that we've made and then we could try to get rid of it, because that's what we do. We make room for other loans. We sell off a certain part of our portfolio for someone, a larger entity to service. So what that means is that lenders all over the country, whether it's me, legacy or big bank or online lender, it doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat, that we could all be making loans that Fannie and Freddie, when the rubber meets the road, they could decide at a future point, yeah, it's good that you want to sell that servicing rights to us and all, but guess what? We don't have room. So what a lot of lenders have done is the tactic to avoid originating these kind of loans is to increase your price. Like that's how they do it. So we've noticed investment properties, number one, you have to put 20% down on investment property, but the rates, it's horrible. Like the rate, the fees, it's horrible. 25%, I'm just telling you, is the best for investment property. So that's something that they're going to rent out. Now, let's say that a property, because I think it's really important that y'all understand what's an investment property and what's a second home, because I want to let you know that the radar for underwriters is going to be on, because now that there's such a large difference in the rates and then the closing costs because of points that will be charged, we will see borrowers that are trying to lie. Fraud will increase. I'm just here to tell you, and you do not want to be part of any of that. So I want to let you know what second homes are and what they're not, and what investment properties are and what they're not. And my professional recommendation to you is that if you sense that a buyer is saying that they're going to occupy it as their primary, but all the indicators point to them not, you need to drop that client. That is my professional recommendation, because you will be nailed for fraud if this client goes down. There will be more oversight and more quality control on these types of loans that are triggered with questions. Are they really going to occupy as their primary? Could this person be lying to avoid higher down payment and ginormously higher fees? I'm just letting you know that's how it's going to be. So it's very important that you all really pay attention to certain signs. So a second home is not a house that's just their second mortgage and it's in the same neighborhood. It's not a second home. A second home is a vacation home. It's somewhere where they're going to vacation or go on the weekends. It's usually defined as 55 miles away from their primary. Not always, because like in Houston, you could go get something on Lake Conroe and you want to have a lake house with your ski boat or whatever, and you might live 40 miles away. So there's exceptions, but it has to make sense, like on a lake, in the mountains, in the hill country, at a ski resort. Now, there are vacation homes where people live in one state and their kids live in another or city, and they're like, hey, I want a second home because I come and I babysit my grandkids, and so that makes sense. Okay, so that makes sense as a second home. So if it's not their primary, where they're going to live as their primary, and it's not a second home that they're going to vacation, etc., the only other thing that it can be, the only other choice for a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional lender or FHA is that it's investment. It doesn't matter that they're going to collect rent or not. Maybe their cousin is going to live there and they're doing the cousin a favor, getting a loan, whatever, and they're going to live there for free. It doesn't, if family's going to live there, that does not make it a second home. It is investment, plain and simple. So it's super important because I get a lot of calls and questions, and clients don't understand. They don't do this every day. So they think, oh yeah, I'm buying a second home and it's down the street and my mom's going to live there. It's like, no, that's not a second home. Okay. So it's super important that the kinds of questions. So I want to kind of backtrack and repeat again to tell you what a primary residence is, because these are the red flag signs that y'all need to pay super, super attention to. And so on a primary residence where my radar is on, and then my underwriter's radar is on, checking that I originated the loan and I'm not committing fraud. So, I mean, I've got a reputation and a 25-year career and a family that I support on risk at all times. I would never do anything outside of the gray area, never. Like it's either black or white. So the things that I look for when I'm first talking to a client is if they're going from a house that's, and so if the price point of the house that they're buying as their primary is lower than their current house, my radar is on. Let's say they live in a $400,000 house and they're buying as a primary a $200,000 house. That is red flag number one, that they are buying an investment property. Number one. Anything under 250 is prime rental property. 150 to 200 is the sweet spot. And they're downsizing. So it's a young family, let's say. What's their family size? How old are they? Does it make sense that they are downgrading to 200,000? Now, it could be that they had a job change and they have an income change, and that makes sense. It could be that they live in a high cost area, upper end area, and they want to move out to the city limits to something with acreage like that and a larger room count that's farther outside of the city. That could be, but we have to ask the question. We have to. If it does not make sense that they are not living, that they're going to live there as their primary, don't do it. Advise them, say, well, this is going to be investment. You better talk to your lender about whatever. This isn't going to be your primary. I don't advise you perjuring yourself on a federal loan application that has federal jail time associated with it. Do not let them lie to the lender and say that they're going to occupy it as their primary. Like, I'm super adamant about this because I hear it all the time. And I stop it. I will walk away and tell them that they are committing fraud and that I'm not the place to do that. I have told people that before. This is serious business, y'all. Serious. Like this new rule where investment in second homes now are so expensive, you will see more fraud. Okay. So cutting their house in half and they're a young family or middle, if they're not retirement age, needs to be a red flag. Like, ask them questions, because you don't know if the lender that they're going to is going to ask the same questions that I will. What if the lender is an online lender and just, isn't trained enough, or they don't really know, or, you don't know. You have no idea. If you don't know who the lender is and that they're asking the right questions, are you willing to put your license at risk for this whole scandal to go? And I don't want to say scandal. I think that borrowers, most of them, really just don't understand. They don't know. They don't know the difference between a second home and an investment. They don't get it. So we have to educate them. And so if they're living in a larger house, they're not retirement age, it doesn't make sense that they're downsizing, for whatever reason, we are going to ask the question, and you should too. So another thing is if they have bought a primary in the last 12 months, automated underwriting is going to flag it for us. Like, forget me asking the question. Everything, all of the loans are run through an automated system. It's the same portal. Me and lender B and C and D, all of us run the same automated system. So it's going to happen. When we run it through, we get documents, and part of the pre-approval is we run it through the system to make sure that it gives the green light. It is going to flag it and say, this person has done a primary residence, either refi or purchase, in the last 12 months. Red flag, potential denial. And so that's a sign that they either frauded themselves on the refi that they just did, saying it's a primary so they could get a lower rate, and now they're getting a new primary. That could be part of the fraud. So these kind of things have to be checked out. And it's super, super important, because we're also starting to see people that want to refinance at a lower rate or get cash out to do improvements or buy the next house or whatever. If they do a primary residence refinance and they are trying to buy within the next 12 months, it likely will be a denial, or the new loan that they're getting will counter offer and say, we will do this as an investment. You just did a primary, how can you do another one? Now, there are exceptions. Sometimes things make sense, like they got a new job and it moved them to a different market area. So that could happen. But I just want to let you know that the questions should be asked. They will be asked by me, like within the first 3 minutes of talking to them, I can tell you. But again, I'm one lender amongst many. So these are the little red flags that y'all need to understand, because people will be trying to fit themselves into a mold for primary residence, because the interest rate on investment and second home is 0.5% to 1% higher, and the fees, so fees on a loan, an origination fee, a 1% origination fee is 1% of the loan. So if you have a $200,000 loan, 1% is $2,000. So on investment property, we have been seeing as much as 3% that's forced. Like I can't increase the rate to absorb it. Like it has to be charged, which is, I haven't been doing many investment properties, I can tell you. Now, there might be some lenders out there who are willing to take the risk of doing loans, or that might be private loans. I don't know. This isn't applying to every single loan out there. So you might need to make sure you got some, if you deal with a lot of investors, they're going to have to get some round robin opinions. Not every lender is a fit, because right now, sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. Second homes, it's not as tragic on the points, but the rates are, rates are normally on a second vacation home. In that past, they've been similar to a primary residence. It's like blip on a screen. It's like 0.1 difference in the rate, like nothing. But now it's probably 0.5% or more. So it's a lot. It makes people pause, okay, for sure. So I'm really finished. I really want to hear y'all's questions, but I wanted to get all of that very important detail out, because it's really going to be a big deal, and it's changing how our market is shaped and goes. And we want to be able to have people accomplish vacation homes. There are people that want to buy investment property, and we want to help them do it, but we've got to understand how things work and how they don't work, so that we can help people at a higher level. So Michelle, if you could tell me if there's questions, that'd be great.
There's nothing in the chat right now, Jen.
So I think we only have a couple people on, which is good. So they could unmute and we can just talk about it, or
okay, I'll unmute.
Whatever. I know Madison's on and Ingrid's on.
Okay. So how much are the interest rates for somebody wanting a second home? That's the question that I have. Just, you said 25%?
Yeah, so primary residence is approximately 3.3, 3.5 right now. Rates are rising for primary residence, so it's probably 0.5% higher. So it's around 4.
Okay. Okay. So
And
it's not crazy.
It's not
Yeah, crazy that they're not gonna want to do it.
Yeah, it's not too crazy. And again, it depends on their down payment. Like on a second home, you can put as little as 10% down. So you can do 10% down on a second home. And it's, it's going to depend on their credit score, their down payment, I mean, there's several things that are involved, but for the most part. And for investment, it's about 0.5% more, but the rates are capped. Like we can only go so high, and that's where the points come in. So you've got a rate that's around 0.5% higher than primary, but then you've got 2 to 3 origination fees on a $200,000 loan. That's $6,000 in addition to regular closing costs.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get it. So yeah,
regular.
That's no fun. I mean, it takes out of their profits.
Well, but for some people it works. For some investors, especially if we're doing a refi of a hard money loan, or for some people it does work, depending on future appreciation. It's not out of the question. But again, we're not there's some lenders out there, and it's going to be a very small amount that will make a killing doing investment property because no one else can. I mean, there's going to be someone. I just don't know what companies they are. So primary residence is a slam dunk. Everybody does that. You can get it anywhere. But investment property is going to be the one where there's going to be 1 or 2 leaders to where everyone tries to go to them, and they're going to be busier than you know what, and hopefully can service that market. But a lot of investors have private money and stuff too. There's all kinds of other things they can do, but higher rates, I'm sure. I mean, that's why they go to conforming, is for they want the lower 30-year fixed rate for their carry cost when they're renting out, right? Or their family's going to live there or whatever. They want that nice, pretty 30-year fixed rate. So it's going to be different. It'll be interesting for sure. We still don't know all the shakeout, So that is pretty much, what I have. And again, I've only got like a month of experience with it. We haven't been doing very many in fact, I don't think I've locked any investment loans in the last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Back to you were talking about the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac cutting down to 7%. I missed, you said that was just for investments, or that's in total?
That's for investment and second homes.
Okay.
So for the portion, if you just think of a pie, a round circle, right. and so they want 93% of their loans to be primary residence loans. Whether it's refi or purchase, they want primary residence in that 93%. And that leaves a real small wedge for investment and second home as a percent of their loans in their portfolio. I mean, it's not much at all. I mean, in the past, it was like double that. Just to give you some perspective, they were kind of 14, 15%. So they basically cut it in half, which is a large overnight shift. Large, like that's a lot. When you think of the trillions of dollars of loans that they do. Like the mortgage market is, I don't know, 3-4 trillion. Might be more now with all this volume. I don't, but it's a lot.
Where do you see that? Where do you see the interest rates going the rest of the year? What's your
I mean, they're
forecast?
trending upward. Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I hear different things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of hover in the high 3s or 4. I mean, they're trending there now. So the better news about the economy is bad for rates. So as investors feel better about the economy and, oh my God, we're going to put our money in the stock market because the economy is turning around and more people are getting vaccinated. So as there's good news in the market, that makes the bond market suffer because people take their money out of, people meaning investors, big hedge funds, all the big investors, and even people like you and me, we're like, oh, they're chasing this return over here, and that's the stock market. It's more volatile. And so they'll take their money out of treasuries and bonds and the safety over here of these low guaranteed returns, and they say, I'm going to go risk it over here. It's like going to Vegas. Like I'm going over here. And so they shift their money out of the bond market. And when you take the money out of the bond market, the demand goes down, the yield or the rate goes up. And so that's where the mortgage rates lie. And so we've been falsely depressed all through COVID. I mean, the only reason rates have been as low as they are is because the government has been pumping billions, millions, billions of dollars into the bond market to keep it, keep things steady.
Keeping it from collapsing.
Yes, to keep it from collapsing, keep the money markets stabilized. Yeah, and I think it worked. I think that was a good thing. It worked, and we were able to refinance a lot of people. That were able to save money. Consumer confidence comes in a lot of different ways. Like consumer confidence, a lot of people went to a 15-year and they feel better about. Like I financed a lot of people that went up to a 15-year from a 30 for the same payment. So it's no cash flow difference, and they feel better about themselves because they're like, oh my gosh, we're like super sonicking our equity. And so they feel good. So maybe they spend in other areas, right? And then later they're going to get more money when they sell their house and go buy a bigger house. Like it trickles down. And a lot of other people that we refinanced on a 30, they don't care that they're extending their mortgage another however many years. They're like, we just care about the payment, and we're saving 2, 3, 4. I saved one guy like $800 a month. I mean, his loan amount was larger, but still, like, even for some people, saving $200 a month was major for them based on whatever, income bracket they're in. Like, it was a lot of good things came from it to make room for people to spend money in other areas. And so, just a shift, right? So it was a good thing, and we're still refinancing. I mean, it's less, but we're still doing some. With the rates higher, everybody's situation is a little bit different. Hey, Ingrid, if you'll put yourself on mute when you're not asking a question, just because I can hear some movement and your bandwidth's a little low, so maybe do that. Yeah, that'd be good. Awesome. Pretty background though. I like those. That must be your Mexico City hotel room. So I thank y'all for coming on today. Michelle, I can't see who else might be on. Is there anybody else in the chat?
No, there's not.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's a wildly fun topic. It remains to be seen, but I'm going to see where this all goes, and we'll have another report in a couple of months. But and I'm going to post this recording on social media. And Michelle, you could stop. I mean, I think on Facebook we can probably stop. But if anyone has questions, just DM us.
Legacy Mutual Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender. The opinions expressed here do not reflect those of Legacy Mutual Mortgage.